Hello, everyone, and welcome to the halving clause. Okay, now we understand the aggregates that we covered for this week, basically count, sum, average, min and max. And now we talked about the group by clause, where we can group our data based upon additional columns in our select statement. The last thing we need to cover is the halving clause, which goes along with aggregates also. So what we're going to do is talk about a little bit what this is. So a halving clause in SQL specifies that an SQL select statement should only return rows where aggregate values meet the specified conditions. It was added to SQL language because the where keyword could not be used with aggregate functions. All right, in other words, what we're saying here is this, that if we want to filter our data, okay, like we normally have done in a where clause, but we want to use an aggregate to filter our data, we must do that in a halving clause. All right, so all aggregate filtering is done in a halving clause. All non-aggregate, meaning any other column in our select statement or whatever, is done in a where clause. So basically SQL created this particular clause to separate those two. So how this all works is this, whoops, I'm sorry, let's go back here. We have our select and our from. These are required, obviously, in our select statements. Where, group by, having, and order, these are all optional. But based upon what you have in your select statement, it should come in this order. Okay? Can you have a where clause and a having clause at the same time? The answer is yes. With that said, let's kind of get into some examples to make sure you understand this. So here's a pretty simple example. I'm going to basically select count customer ID by country, okay? So obviously I have a database out there that has a country in it, and I want to select all the customers within that country, okay? So I introduce, obviously, a new non-aggregate column in my select clause. I must, if that's the case, based upon all the rules we talked about in the group by video, I must put it in a group by clause. However, as you notice here, I can sit back and say having count customer is greater than 5, which basically says only return those countries where the customer count is greater than 5. That's pretty powerful, and again, something I would use quite a bit based upon what I'm doing, all right? And so in some cases, I don't care about a filtering like we did in some of our examples in the group by, but in some cases, I do. And if that's the case, I need to put it into the having clause. Does that make sense? Okay, that's pretty much all it is. Let's go out and kind of take a shot at trying some of these, okay? So coming back to where we were before, all right, so let's look at this having clause here. I want to write an aggregate to show total sales per store where total sales are over $100. Let's do one thing first. Let's go ahead and run this. As you can see, I'm just highlighting without the having piece here, and it'll show you what comes back. So in this case here, we have store 1, 2, and 3, and our total sales are 517, 1352, and 6250. If my boss comes to me and says, well, I only want the ones that are over 100 because I want to do something special for them, I could put that having in there, and as you can see, store 3 was excluded. And that's pretty much how the having clause works, okay? Pretty easy, okay? Now, can I have a where clause and a having clause together? Absolutely, I can. And so if I sit back and let's go up here where I have in this case here, let's see the average sales, the sum, since we're doing this by customer, I'm not sure these would work. We'll come up with some better examples a little bit later on, maybe in the next video. But the answer is yes, I can have a where clause and I can have a having clause in the same case. Once again, the where clause filters based upon non-aggregate columns, okay? And then our having clause filters based upon aggregation, which in this case, you see how this works. It's pretty simple, all right? The best thing to do is give it a try yourself in your assignments this week and make sure you understand. All right, so there you go. Aggregates, group by, and having. Now you're a professional when it comes to aggregates and doing these in SQL. Very powerful tool, something I use quite a bit. In the next video, we're going to kind of go into more sophisticated querying where we join tables together and so on. Shouldn't be too hard, but it should give you some nice examples as we flow through it.